I'm going to talk to you about unearthing hidden gems. Sounds a bit cryptic. What it basically means is looking for diverse players, hidden gems within communities, within diverse communities you may not have looked at before. From your point of view, it's about casting your net widely. Casting your net wider so you've got a bigger pool of players. But on the flip side, in terms of the game, it's about giving everyone the opportunity to progress, to get into football. What am I going to talk about? 4 main things. Firstly, what's diversity? We talk about it a lot, but what do we mean? Who diverse communities are, diverse communities that are playing football, a few footballing stereotypes, and something called unconscious bias. I'm going to touch on all of these. I won't go into great depth, but I'm going to talk about it in a way that's relevant to football. What's diversity? You hear about it all the time. You open the paper, you turn on the TV, you hear about immigration, you hear about discrimination. What does it mean? Equality, diversity, inclusion. Basically, it's 2 things. Diversity is how we're all different. We're all different. We're at a conference today with 300 or so talent ID, recruitment officers, scouts. But you're not all the same, you're all different. Look at the person next to you. Look who's in your line. Look who's behind you. You might be a different gender, a different race, a different age, a different faith. Everyone's different in some way. None of us are the same. But diversity is about making sure we recognize that and giving everyone the same opportunity. When we go into more depth about inclusion and when we work in it, you can't just talk about the fluffy stuff and say we all need to be friends and we all need to be inclusive. You need to measure it, just like with talent ID, just like with every other part of life. And there are 9 different fields, 9 ways that we measure diversity. Here they are. They're all part of the Equality Act. I won't go through them all. But that piece of legislation protects us all from discrimination. And it's a way of recognizing we're all different within football as well as wider society. That's the technical bit. I'm going to talk a little bit today about diverse communities, ethnically diverse communities. Everyone plays football. Everyone loves football. But if you look at the wider society that we live in, 86% of us are white English. I was surprised by that. I thought it might be less. 14% are what we call BAME, Black and Asian Minority Ethnic. 14% is close to 10 million people. 10 million people within England are from those backgrounds. And those people are playing football, and that's why it's important for us. But what's more important is who's playing football from those communities. Logically, if 10 million people are from those communities, 14%, that will be reflected in football, wouldn't it? Makes sense? Football's a national sport by a long way. In fact, it's the 1st, 3rd, and 8th biggest sport. Men's football's number 1, women's football's number 3, and disability football's number 7 in terms of participation. It's huge. So we think that logically, those communities should be reflected in football. Here's a few stats that might get you thinking. 10 million people play football, according to the FA Sport England. 10 million people play football regularly. And of those people, Asian males are the most likely to play. Indian, Pakistani, and Bangladeshi communities are the most likely to play football. But then you look at the professional leagues, there's only 6 players of 3,000. That's 40 times underrepresentation. Here's a stat you'll all be aware of. 25% of pros are black. Yet we've only got 4 managers. 6 or 7 times underrepresentation. And even though more than half the world's female, we still haven't had 1 female manager. Doesn't add up, does it? We're a vibrant, inclusive country, famed for our diversity, proud of it. So why is that? Why has that happened? We've organised football here for the last 150 years. There's lots of reasons, lots of theories. Discrimination is one. I used to work at Kick It Out, and there's discrimination in the game, but it's not the main factor. Faith, community, academia, these are all factors, but they're not the main ones. The biggest factor I found is this: information and opportunity. Communities not getting enough information about how to get into football, and not seeing the opportunities of how to progress. And that's where we come in. When I say we, I mean the football family. I don't just mean talent ID officers. I mean the FA, the PFA, the LMA, school teachers, county FAs. We're the gatekeepers for the game. We're the people that allow people to go from inactivity and not playing football to being a player, a coach, a referee, an academy boy, a professional player on a contract. So that's why we have that responsibility to try and make representation something that reflects our society, something we can be proud of. But what's this based on? Why have we got to this point where we've got such inequalities? One of the factors is stereotypes. We probably all know what that means. Here's a dictionary definition. Widely held or oversimplified image of an idea, a person, or a thing. Translate that to football. You're at a club, you're on a pitch, someone turns up looking a certain way, with a certain demeanour, talking a certain way. We automatically make assumptions and opinions. We stereotype people, it's natural. Sometimes in a good way, sometimes in a bad way. But we need to be aware of that, especially when it comes to talent ID. We don't want that to cloud the way we assess players. And it's based on assumptions. Here's a couple of assumptions, everyday ones. If you ever tried to get an appointment with your doctor, they tell you to ring the secretary. Do you assume they're female? I've done that. When someone talks about someone who's disabled, you assume they're a wheelchair user? I've done that. And when you talk about someone who's Muslim, have you assumed they're Asian? I'm not Asian. These are everyday things, harmless things, but it makes you aware, it makes you think. Do we do this in subtle ways? And does it affect the way we deliver football? I'm going to give you a couple of quotes now. These are real-life quotes from people working within football. Quotes they've said directly to me. Firstly, about Asian communities. Their diet doesn't really suit sport, too much curry. Asian players don't really have the frame for football. They make good ball players. Asian parents are focused on academic studies and being a doctor or lawyer. Someone at the FA said that to me. These are stereotypes that still prevail in society today and in football today, and they're things we need to be aware of. Let me show you a quick clip. Okay, Amir Khan. He doesn't eat curry all day. He doesn't have a small build. He doesn't want to be a doctor or a lawyer. None of those stereotypes prevail with him. Here's another one. Black players. I spoke to someone at a professional club this year who said this to me about African players. They're real athletes, so strong and quick. If you sign them up, you can teach them to play football later, in 2015. Here's another clip. Raheem Sterling. You guess what I'm going to say. He wasn't picked because he was big and strong, and they teach him to play later. He's from Wembley. He's from Wembley High Street. He was picked up by the late, great Trevor Hutton, someone a few of us here know very well, because he was a great player with great talent. And something that stereotypes are based on, something called unconscious bias. Some of you have probably heard of this. Unconscious bias is the dictionary definition, is bias we're not in control of. It occurs automatically based on our background. From the day we're born to today, we have hundreds and thousands of experiences. We meet millions of people. We process pieces of information every second, and that makes up our opinions, our backgrounds. It makes up what we think about people when we meet them, the assumptions we make. And we need to be really careful that that doesn't impinge on the way we look at players. We need to take it into account. If someone has a need, an extra need, we need to support them, because they're possibly the future of football, the future for us. But we need to be aware of them. I'm going to show you, lastly, a really moving clip. It's a famous sociological experience. Happened in the 50s and 60s. It's been repeated several times. Looking at young children and their unconscious bias, even at a very, very young age.
Which doll is the black doll? And which one is the white doll? Which doll is the pretty doll? Which doll is the nice doll? Which doll is the bad doll? Which doll is the nice doll? And which doll is the bad doll? And why is that doll pretty?
Because she's white and she has 2 eyes.
Which doll is the ugly doll? Why is that doll ugly?
Because he's black.
Which doll looks most like you?
Like me?
Yeah, which one looks like you?
And that one.
Okay.
That doll.
Wow. When I saw that, I was bowled over. But it shows that even that young age, socialization, our experiences, what we see in the media, what we see on TV, shapes the way we react, even to people that look like us.